Good evening. Welcome to Expat Insights. I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan. Here at Expat Insights, we take external views of internal successes in business or society by foreigners and expats who have made Philippines their home. Tonight, we have two guests from US of A, and they are in the call center industry, the BPO industry, and they are here to talk about the future of the BPO industry in the Philippines. My first guest, he has been here before, Keith Jones, AVP of NCO Group in the Philippines, and Jeff Uthoff, the country manager for Telus in the Philippines. Jeff is also on the board of CCAP, which is the Call Center Association of the Philippines.
That's right.
And he's been with IBM. He's been in this country for 8 years, and Keith has been here for 4.
Glad to be back with you.
So welcome to Expat Insights, ladies and gentlemen.
Great to be here.
Just gentlemen. So, Jeff, since you're here for the very first time, can you give us a little background about yourself? What brought you to the Philippines, and how are you doing here?
Sure, I'm doing great. Originally came here, as you said, my first visit was 9 years ago because of the booming growth that the BPO industry was enjoying. Fell in love with the Philippines, and I think at that point probably knew it was a matter of time until I would make it my home. And officially moved down here just about 5 years ago, and have had the time of my life enjoying this culture, enjoying the BPO growth. Really something special here. The combination of the Philippine culture and the BPO industry here is quite exciting.
How exactly are you enjoying the culture? How do you enjoy a different culture? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so it's the smiles and the interaction you get that is so pleasant and so genuine everywhere you go, whether it's out in the province, whether it's in a business meeting, whether it's in a gas station. It's just a wonderful experience every moment of every day, to be honest with you.
How about the food and the song and the music and the dance?
Yeah, so...
Tinikling, have you tried tinikling? That's culture?
My wife is Filipina.
So there you go.
So she sneaks some native food in there once in a while, but I don't know what it is.
So you get chorizo inside a burger.
You know, the food and the music, it's a wonderful culture. I really do enjoy all aspects of it.
Were you always a call center or a BPO person? Or what was your history before that?
I fell into call centers kind of by accident right out of college. I went to a small college in small town Iowa, and the timing was perfect. It was a growth industry, a lot of opportunities. So that's all I've really done for more than 20 years has been a BPO executive. My first job was running APAC number 2 as a call center manager.
APAC number 2, what is that?
APAC Center number 2. APAC
okay, that's a company. That's a company. I thought the Petroleum Association, not that.
Different acronym, yeah.
Keith, you've been here, of course, and we have met you before, but still, one more time, just briefly, a bit about yourself.
Right. So, first of all, again, glad to be here. Thanks for honoring me with bringing me back.
My pleasure,
to
really,
the show. Originally from New York City. My heritage is Bahamian in nature. I came to the Philippines because I'd never been to Asia. I love islands, and with 7,107 at high tide, it's a place I got to go. And I love to dive, so I really got 3 in 1 by coming to the Philippines. Have been here 4 years and have enjoyed it tremendously. I think for me, I created a bucket list for my first 2 years that I was here that I would visit at least 2 different places within the Philippines every month.
You did.
Glad to say I did. I've done that and continue to do that, not just in the past 2 years. Most recently, going to Ilocos Norte and Vegan, Loa.
You saw Vegan?
Yeah,
Gosh.
and Pagong Put. So, just like Jeff, really enjoy the culture and getting out to the province and meeting people.
Do you get chorizos in your burger? Do you get?
No, I don't get chorizos in my burger, but my favorite food is turon.
Turon
with jackfruit.
Oh,
it has to be with jackfruit.
With jackfruit. Okay. Now we are here to talk about the BPO industry, and way before we go into what's happening in the industry and what the potentials are and how we can leverage on these potentials, let's define it from your perspective. For my audience who are in the provinces and some in the other Asian countries, what is the BPO industry? Where did this animal arise from? Where did this come from?
Sure, I'll go first if that's okay.
You go first, okay.
So the BPO industry stands for Business Process Outsourcing, and the basic concept is that organizations take advantage of better technology, process, labor arbitrage, cost reductions with other companies by outsourcing certain functions to other companies. Maybe it's their calls, maybe it's their development. That's the base meaning of the BPO industry. Started with phone calls, outbound primarily, then inbound, but over the last 20 plus years, it's really diversified into a great breadth of different
So
functions.
thus anything and everything that can be handed down to somebody else in a far-off land, whether it's selling, buying, servicing, or
not always
researching, or putting data together, or managing knowledge.
Sorry to interrupt. Not always in a faraway land, but it's anytime you have an opportunity to partner with a company that can do it better, cheaper, faster, you utilize an outsourced partner.
I think to continue on that path, when you talk to people in the Philippines, there was a stigma that it's all voice and that it could be potentially a nowhere job. But I've got to tell you, as we go to that non-voice platform, and we need MBAs, we need accountants, we need doctors and nurses to work on non-voice projects, this is the place to grow your career.
You're right about the stigma, because that's why I kept calling it the call center industry, which it is not. Which it is not just that, it's more than that. So that's the point. All right, so now what does the future hold? How is Philippines doing in terms of its placement across other players in the world? How are we doing?
I think Jeff had some good numbers to talk to.
Sure.
Numbers, let's go, yeah.
So as of November of 2010, the Philippine voice section of the BPO industry became the #1 in the world. We we surpassed 350,000 people handling outsourced voice support in the Philippines, which surpassed India as the
350,000, you said?
Yeah, doing voice work. And as we look forward over the next 5 years, we anticipate somewhere around 18% growth this year, and conservatively 15% growth annually for the next 5 years after that, and that would take us to over 800,000 people doing voice work in the Philippines by 2016, and CCAP projects that we'll have approximately 30% of the overall world voice market at that point. Pretty exciting.
And I think if you add to that, right, for every call center job, let's call it BPO job to be specific, there's actually 1.5 more jobs, ancillary jobs created, whether it's in a support function, whether it's food, transportation,
food, building industry. Yeah.
Exactly.
30% global voice only in the coming years. No? How about countries? This is because of the fact that we have an edge over English, the English language, 1. Our demographics, we are a younger population, that's 2. And maybe the geographical location, or that doesn't play a part. The fact that we are located somewhere right in the heart of Asia.
Yeah, actually, I would suggest, and you can tell me if you agree, that the geography location at this point probably works a little bit against us, because most of the outsourcing work is from Europe and North America, and it's such a distance to travel here that Latin America and other geographies are much more attractive. But the communication skills and the EQ factor in the Philippines,
the literacy,
make up
the
for
EQ, and the language, that kicks us. Okay,
yes.
At this point, let's take a break. Then we'll come back and see what we can do with the future of this industry in this country.
And there's a lot to do.
There's a lot to do. All right. So stay with us. I'm with Keith Jones and Jeff Uthoff from the BPO industry. And this is Expat Insights. Stay watching. We'll be right back after the commercial break. Welcome back to Expat Insights. I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan, and I'm with my 2 guests, Keith Jones and Jeff Uthoff from the BPO industry this time. And we were just finished talking about how the industry is globally and in the Philippines. So tell us now, what are we doing right in this country? Besides the fact that we have an edge over the language, besides the fact we are a younger population, and besides the fact that our literacy levels and EQ levels are pretty good, what else are we doing right in terms of strategy?
I think just expand that the emotional quotient is something that we continue to do very well, and that's the EQ.
Huge.
That's a huge piece. But I think a lot of the government organizations and the industry has come together to propel the industry and support its growth, whether it's PEZA, whether it's CCAP, whether it's BPAP. They've come together to do that. So I think foundationally everybody's in the game to make sure that the centers survive and grow. I do think we can take it to the next level, but I'll wait to talk about that.
Yeah. Your take on what are the other factors that make us so good?
Yeah, I agree completely with Keith that the government participation and the cooperativeness towards moving this industry forward is quite unique. It's there's still customers that are coming to the Philippines for the first time, and the response is the same every single time. They're overwhelmed by the nature of the people interacting with North Americans or Europeans. Just the not just the communication skills, but the passion, the desire to please, the gentleness. It's an overwhelmingly positive thing for people from other cultures, and it distinguishes us from India, from Central America locations. It's something that's uniquely Filipino and really, really special.
Cariñoso, caring.
So absolutely.
Spirit of Behanyan. I want to tell you a story. It just struck me. I don't tell stories on the show. I'm the host. No? But I want to tell you this. In the early 80s, I used to go to the States very often. And I met a couple of friends of mine, and they said, we love to the Philippines. And I asked them why. So this guy describes an incident in his life. He said, I was with a friend of mine out into the ocean, right in the middle of the water, chest level. And we were both having a drink somewhere in the south, and we were having champagne or a glass of wine or a bottle of beer, and my friend, the non-Filipino, the American, he says, you know what, I feel like a cigar right now. And he says, I don't want to get out of the water. So this host of his, the Filipino, balikbayan, he says, wait, just stay here in the water, I'll get you a cigar. So he waves out onto the beach, snaps his fingers, and does this. The waiter, fully dressed, on a tray, walks into the water, and gives him the cigar and the lighter. He said, this is heaven. So that's the culture that comes across right to the call center industry, the BPO industry.
The other experience that I often have with new client partners or guests to the Philippines are they're skeptical at first. After their first interactions, they think, is it an act? Is this? Are you putting this on? If you put a focus group together, they're like, did you handpick the absolute best people? but then after a period of time, they come back and say it's genuine and it's real and it's pervasive. It's the Philippines, and it's really something special.
Going back to the fact that CCAP, BPAP, the players, other stakeholders, government are coming together, realizing the potential of this industry. Post-war, post-Second World War, Japan came together like that. Taiwan came together like that to win the financial war globally in terms of them coming together as a nation. So did China. Very successfully in the 70s and 80s in the manufacturing industry. So do you think we can reach those heights that Japan, Taiwan, and China reached in the other sectors in the past several decades? Do you think we can hit that?
I would say that the simple answer is yes, we can hit that.
All right.
And I think the Philippines is already a power player, as Jeff spoke earlier. We're number one in the world in terms of non-voice, but we've also, in terms of actual seats, but we've also been ranked in the Black Book in terms of number one place to do outsourcing.
But what does that mean? Oh, place to do. Okay, in terms of okay.
Not just in terms of seats, but this is the place to go. But as I talked to before, I think the future is not now. The future is 5-10 years out. How do we distinguish ourselves? And that's where I go, and I spoke before about creating a global center of excellence for the BPO industry here in the Philippines. I think that's where we need to go for the long-term survival.
So do you want to tell us about it right now, since you already brought it up? Jeff, is that okay with you? Because he has this game plan.
So again, my view is that no other country in the world has a global center of excellence for the BPO industry. And with the amount of players that we have in the market, the amount of government support that we have here, if the government would create, or the universities and the government would create that hub for global center of excellence, which everything would funnel into, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's legislation, whether it's pricing structure, whether it's connecting with the universities, and become the one place, one country in the world that can distinguish itself across all other countries as the experts in the industry. And the reason that's needed is because right now we've been so successful because we've had these innate pieces within the environment. The emotional quotient, number 3 largest English-speaking community in the world, an abundance of young folks. But I'm really talking about long-term competitiveness. This is where we ratchet it up. This is where we come to the table and say, the stake is ours.
I couldn't agree more. Several pieces of that actually have kind of been put in motion over the last couple of years. BPAP and CCAP have partnered with the local universities to create the ADEPT program, which is a standardized English testing preparation program. One of CCAP's main initiatives is to partner and create a universal leadership development program. There was another piece that just escaped me, but there's several pieces of that, either through BPAP, CCAP, or other organizations that have kind of been created. And I think maybe the opportunity is to get government sponsorship for an overall overarching body to bring all of that together. But a lot of that exciting stuff that's a part of your vision, I think, is actually happening in different pieces.
I would definitely agree that.
What would you need? Could you do without government sponsorship?
It's just so much easier.
Yeah, because it might be a little more tedious. Oh, might be easier.
Yeah.
But guys don't need the funds.
Never hurts, to get additional funding to support some of these initiatives. If I can just also say, I'm actually more optimistic and more excited over the last year about the direction the administration is going for cleaning up some of the corruption, continuing to support the industry.
Everybody's excited about that.
Really optimistic about all that and its impact on our industry.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Yeah.
No. What I was going to add, and I do like that point about the corruption, is definitely a big piece. Is that what happens if the government does it? The distinction, right? It's not about money because the industry has.
It's not about the capacity, but
it's about setting a stake for the future
of the country
as a whole, as to be the BPO Global Center of Excellence. It's not about the money. The industry will ante up the money. The industry will be engaged. The industry will revel in the opportunity to participate in that.
Well, basically, you're putting together a quality control department, so it doesn't take a lot of money. It just needs heads to come together.
Agreed.
So whether they are from education or from the industry or from the government. Great. Now, I'm kind of stumped. What was the next question? You mentioned stigma.
I did.
About the call center, and we covered it with the fact that, hey, it's not just call center but more. But how about the fear of the fact that the call center industry might just become so big that it'll leave all other sectors behind, and then someday if the industry slumps, what happens to the country?
Tell me some more about that. I'm interested in that premise.
I'm saying that the call center industry, it has a growth, probably it'll have a fall, maybe 10, 20 years down the line. And then suddenly it's replaced by technology. What will happen to the people in the BPO industry then? Is there a possibility? Yeah?
I'm not concerned about that. If you look at India, as we said earlier, India is a little ahead of the Philippines from a time perspective, getting into the BPO space. You've seen a lot of the voice work exit India over the last several years, and what you've seen then is an increase of the type of talent work done. So as opposed to these people being out of work, these people upskill and get into some of the diverse knowledge process outsourcing. So I think it's a very positive progression, and I'm not concerned about it creating a vacuum at any point at all.
Coming into a slump.
I think the other piece is let's understand the history, right? Jeff says he's had over 20-something years in industry, so it's been around in excess of 20 years. Plus, as India, China, Brazil, the Asian tigers come online, all of the reasons you had call centers in the, let's say, old gray populations of Europe and America now are going to replicate themselves within India, China, and Asia, and as other third world countries come online. So I don't see there being a vacuum.
There's a huge market out there for years to come.
Historically, it had been, up until probably 3 years ago, it had been primarily North America-based companies that outsourced, and over the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen a significant increase in European, Australian, New Zealand, other local Asian countries bringing their work to the Philippines and seeing the unique service that the Philippines has to offer. The most recent statistic I saw from CCAP was that as of this point, more than 12% of our total outsourced work was now non-North America based, which is a significant increase from where we've been. It just continues to open up new markets and more business to come.
Yet there are some pockets of markets like Germany, France, and Australia that haven't been completely tapped yet. Am I right in saying that? France, Germany, Spain,
But I think in those markets, what I would add is that what we don't have is we don't have a diverse language pool here.
Oh,
and so
right.
when you look to Europe, you have to look to parts like Budapest or Tunisia before they had things there, revolution there, that have those unique pockets of language.
They had French and German language. Yeah. Capabilities, yeah.
Tunisia, you can hire 21 different languages, you know, and some of those.
Where the heck is Tunisia anyway? Somewhere up there.
Next to Egypt.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, and some of those Eastern European countries that were, you know, suppressed or whatever before have great language skills as well. But I think we'll still benefit from those markets because some of the non-voice stuff where you don't need all that stuff, some of the development and other things, I still think we're seeing growth in those areas here as well.
How about, you did mention Brazil, Russia, and China.
Brazil, India, and China.
Well, India's already there. Yeah. It's not yet, India's already a major player, but Brazil, Russia, and China have the potential to become bigger players in the coming years. No? China's population is growing, China's picking up on the language, right? So how much market will they take away? How much market share will they take away in the coming years, if they will?
I would say I don't have a view to the numbers behind that or what's potentially out there. What I would tell you is that wherever Jeff talked about arbitrage in terms of value and in terms of skill, so wherever there's an arbitrage play, eventually people come on the line. So let's look at China. 1.3 billion and growing every year. They have a communist country. Their sovereign wealth fund is one of the biggest in the world. If they decided to say, I'm going to send 2 to 3 million young folks to America, become Americanized, speak English very well, and then come back and then participate in this boom, in this business process boom, they could do it like that, right? Because it's not a heartache. Yeah. So. Though I don't have a number, and I don't know if you have one, Jeff, but what I would say is there's a threat on the horizon because the BPO industry is very lucrative. The only way to minimize that threat is to continue to evolve the value that Philippines brings to the table.
By putting together the center of excellence. Now, another question which we discussed during the break, and we didn't catch that on camera, is that the global shifting of wealth, plus the recession that has happened in the States. You think that the BPO industry has anything to do with it, or is it even a minor factor in that? What's your take on that? So
a lot of press over the last several years in the U.S. on this topic, and being Americans. My experience is that, no, it did not have a significant impact on the U.S. economy in a negative way, if anything, in a positive way, because these jobs that are being supported specifically in the Philippines, they're very difficult jobs to fill in the U.S. People don't want to do those types of jobs at that compensation.
Even today, when there are jobless out there and they're on welfare, yeah?
Still extremely difficult.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
So I think that's a misnomer. I think it's actually helped U.S. organizations stay more globally competitive by being able to increase their customer interfacing skills and enjoy the labor arbitrage by moving some of their work to the Philippines.
How about shifting of wealth globally? Not just the recession in the U.S., but globally. How about countries like Brazil improving their GDP? Countries like Russia, of course, is also doing very well. How about that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that the shifting of wealth is unique to the flow of the BPO industry. I definitely think that it impacts and helps countries grow. But when you think of Brazil, and you think of Russia, and you think of China coming online, their GDP is really impacted by their natural resources. So the biofuels in Brazil, in Russia, they're endless type of oil reserves in there.
Wow.
And China comes online from its manufacturing capability, right?
The human force.
The human force.
Yeah.
And to Jeff's point, if you think of Caterpillar now gets in excess of 50% of its revenues. Caterpillar is an American company. It gets in excess of 50% of its revenues globally from work it does. So the global expansion helps everybody.
All right, in your industry, in your companies, not in your industry, tell us, what is Telus doing to push this forward, the growth of Philippines as the BPO center? What are you doing personally?
We probably don't have enough time in the show to talk about all of the wonderful things Telus is doing. As you know, I've been with Telus just a short while at this point. I joined from IBM, and having been in the industry for 20 plus years, I have really, truly not seen an organization like Telus that has the culture of investing back into the community to make a difference. Not just touching people's lives through development and job opportunities.
Not charity,
But just a couple weeks ago, we had a Telus Day of Service where team members from all over the world, I think more than 1,400 people, converged here, and we spent the day building a village for Kawad Galina, which is
Gawad Kalinga.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
My Tagalog's a little off there.
Yeah.
But things like that, and we're in the process of putting together a community board where Telus, the parent company, on an annual basis, I think is going to give somewhere around $100,000 to be invested in bettering the local community. They really, really embrace the concept of give where we live, and I've seen companies that do it to a certain extent, but really have not ever seen a company that really, really has passion and does it the way Telus does. It's something really unique and really special, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
How big is Telus here in the Philippines and globally?
So Telus, the parent company, is the second largest telecommunications company in Canada, and it's a huge organization. $10 billion a year in revenues. It's like the equivalent of a PLDT or something like that. Telus International, the BPO branch, is a wholly owned subsidiary globally that has approximately 15,000 employees, about 8,000 here in the Philippines.
What is NCO doing, Keith?
I would love to say that we're doing it at the same level as Telus is, but what we are doing is, as an example, last year we provided over 15 scholarships to high school graduates for college scholarships, and we continue. We're going to do Habitat for Humanity and help build some homes as well. So I think the reinvesting in the community is something we're very keyed on, like Telus is, and we'll continue to do that.
All right, we'll be taking a break in a minute, but I'd like you to start talking about this, Keith, because this is what you're here for.
Okay.
So you want to introduce this, and we'll take the break and come back and go in depth over this. So,
okay, great. I kind of know it, so we'll have to.
We can put up that slide, so we can then the slide over there.
So what I've looked at over the past 3 or 4 years is trying to come up, Raju, with a model for success, and I call it sustainable excellence, an integrated model for becoming a strategic asset. As call centers or BPO organizations, they come to growth. What they need to be able to do is not just answer calls, have quality, or sell or resolve issues, but they need to add more value to that interaction for our clients. So to do that, we need to know what their customers are saying.
Right.
We need to understand the voice of the customer. We need to then take that voice of the customer and have our agents improve their performance, which I call shifting the performance curve, and then connect that with projects that add real monetary value to our end clients. Doing that holistic view helps us become a strategic asset, and we can talk about that more.
Let's go over these 4 basic divisions in a while after the break. We'll come back. All right. So stay with us. We are with Keith Jones and Jeff Uthoff, and you are watching Expat Insights. We'll come right back. All right, welcome back to Expat Insights. I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan. We are talking to Jeff Uthoff of Telus and Keith Jones of the NCO Group. And Keith was in the middle of telling us about this model he has on sustainable excellence for call centers, for BPOs. I keep saying call centers again and again.
BPO.
Shoot me down. BPOs. So that's the stigma. We need to talk about that. Okay. So back to it, Keith. Customer's voice.
Voice of customer. So let me kind of what I call sluice it down. If you take the listening post for what customers are saying, and you look across those listening posts, you'll find issues or problems that occur. Then you leverage the best agents within your call center to address those problems and then translate that information down to other agents. At the same time, you engage those best agents and have them help you solve those problems.
All right.
And when you solve those problems, you can actually put a monetary value to those problems, and go to the client and say, we can help you solve your problem. Here it is. And let me give an example.
Is it okay that Jeff eavesdrops on this conversation?
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm sure Jeff is doing it as well.
All right. Okay. Go back. Yeah.
And think, if I bring it to an example, right? We worked with IT. At first, IT said, it takes me $50,000 to make a electronic data entry system for a client. So my team partnered with IT, partnered with sales department, partnered with operations, and we created that portal for only $50,000 in 3 months, which was able to extend to all of our clients. That increased our days of sales outstanding and decreased those days of sales outstanding by a level of $12 million, right? So that we're able to bring money in quicker because we created this, we worked with agents, we worked with support departments and bring this in at measurable value. That's the kind of solutions that as outsourcers we need to bring to the clients that pay us money. It's no longer average handle time, quality, customer service. Is just like College 101.
So it's cash. It's measurable ROI right away. So you need to convert it as fast as possible. Am I right?
The great value, to add to what Keith said, the great value of being a BPO provider is, as a partner, you're an innovator, you're a proactive presence. You don't just do what your partners ask you to do. You continually find ways to add more value, to make suggestions, to give them insight that they otherwise
So getting deeper into the business, sense of the whole enterprise, and becoming a valuable player. That's part one.
That's part one.
Okay, part two?
Part two is being able to clearly articulate that to the partner so that they understand it as a value. Oftentimes, they don't know the problem.
Or they provide resistance because they think, who are you?
Exactly, right? And so as partners, we have to work with them to guide them. A most recent project conversation was, one of my providers was measuring CSAT. My recommendation
was
customer satisfaction only.
How do you say that?
CSAT. It's just an acronym.
CSAT,
yeah, I'm sorry.
CSAT. Satellite. Okay, there you go.
How pleased are your customers with the service you're providing?
And my feedback to them is we should actually move to what's called first call resolution. That has a higher impact on retaining customers, and those retained customers, the lifetime value of those customers is far more important than just looking at the CSAT. There was resistance to that. Over time, we showed them the data, we worked through the models, and they've actually shifted now their measurement.
Single call resolution.
Single call resolution. Right?
What did you have to do?
We had to go through the listening post. So we had to say,
so step one,
Step one, listen to the customers, then take that data and say, here's what your customers are saying, here are the things that you're failing at, and then we had to show them that a lifetime value of a customer, for example, may be $200, right? You're allowing those customers to leave you, and the cost to acquire a new customer is anywhere from 6 to 9 times. So now I'm paying $1,200 to acquire a new customer, where if I had just retained the customer in the first place, I would have $200 positive to my potential.
Right. So that's a red when you put in 6 to 9 times. That's a negative. All right. So step 2. Step 3.
Step 3 is doing the right project selection. So once there's a lot of issues that come to the surface, right? And you have to be able to say which ones are high value, which ones are low value, which ones will take a lot of energy, which ones will take a little bit of energy. And then us as the BPO provider, need to go and say, okay, here are the 1 or 2, 3 that we're going to do. We then go and do those, and then share that information with our clients and say, is this of value with you? Every time, clients will say, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a partner who brings solutions to the table.
Is this not how it's done usually? I thought this is the standard on how you retain customers in any industry or any sector. Or is it any different in the BPO? What is the difference, if there's any?
I think the concept is always you want to provide solutions.
Right.
I think the devil is in the details on how you do it. Some people say, especially I think our young leaders, Jeff, you correct me if I'm wrong, will look at average handle time, quality, as if I do that right, I'm golden.
So they don't factor in the fact that if I lose this client, to acquire a new client, I'll have to spend more. So leaders don't realize that, but you'll make them realize that.
It is such a metric-driven industry, and there's so, like when you're in a cockpit of a plane, you got all these things to keep an eye on. There's so many metrics that it's easy for people to get caught up in those, as Keith said, and to look at your average handle time, to look at your after-call work time, to look at all these barrage of metrics, and to not step back and to remember to be an innovator, to be a change agent, to be a proactive partner. So unfortunately, across the board, it does get lost sometimes, and you got to come back to your core value add reason for being a partner.
In your company, you have examples of applying the same strategy, or what's your strategy?
I would say probably every BPO company has examples of the same type of. I like Keith's model, but the conceptually, that's a part of the industry. The Telus's unique model is, we're in a unique space because you have the very large BPO providers and the very small, and then you have kind of the mid-tier guys. And over my career, I've gone back and forth, and I've used outsourced providers and managed them, and I got kind of frustrated with the really large guys because they would be arrogant and inflexible sometimes. The mid-tier guys, which I would put both of our organizations in, are much more flexible, much more relationship-based, much more results-oriented, and I think that's Telus's secret to success, that we're really, really relationship-based, whether it's our employees, our shareholders, our clients, and really, really flexible. And then when you take a mid-tier player and have the financial strength of a $10 billion parent company behind it, that's a pretty unique value prop in this space.
Good plug over there.
Yeah,
Good
thank
plug
you.
over there. So you want to wrap that up, the model?
So I think Jeff is absolutely right. I think everybody has wants to do those types of things. I think for me, my model has a lot more detail around the execution. As we say, the devil's in the detail. And so where I'm going with this is being able to show organizations how to actually accomplish this on a scalable, repeatable process.
Okay, let's flash this one more time. Can we have this flashed one more time so that you can wrap up? And then we'll go into the point that you brought about, wellness and the stigma behind call centers. But let's flash this. Can we zoom out if it's possible? Otherwise, just let's shoot this. Here, ito na lang. Here we go. There we go. Keith, you hold it.
Okay. But I don't think you can really.
It can't. There we go.
Oh,
See,
okay.
there you go.
Okay. Great.
All right. Okay. All right. Back to. Thank you. That'll do. That's clear enough. So Jeff, coming back to you, the wellness, the stigma that still hounds the call center industry, the BPO industry.
Thank you. So I understand you've had conversations about this in the past. Unfortunately, there is. I think
side effects.
There's an inappropriate stigma that surrounds this industry. The work primarily is at night because we're primarily servicing North America, and there are side issues with that. But the rumors or the chismes about sexual
promiscuity,
thank you, or
smoking, drinking, health.
CCAP is actually undergoing a series of studies to demonstrate that it's not significantly different than any other industry, whether it be manufacturing, retail. It just gets so much more press because of the size of the industry.
Because the fact it's in the dock.
Exactly.
And the fact that it's
on healthcare issues, particularly, we're partnering with two of the largest healthcare providers and pulling data together. To demonstrate.
Would one of them be IntelliCare?
It would be, and MaxiCare would be another one of them. To demonstrate exactly the number of incidences in the BPO industry compared to others, and the preliminary data indicates that for most illnesses and diseases, the BPO industry is not even in the top 1 or 2. The only one that we're in a number 1 position on is upper respiratory infections or illnesses, which you would expect.
Is that because of smoking, or is that because of late nights, or is it because of the ambience in a call center?
I think it's so many people so closely together and that they're airborne. That's a tough one. The other point I wanted to make is I've not seen any other industry across the board, whether it be NCO, Telus, IBM, whomever, that invests so much proactively in managed healthcare support for their employees, whether it's annual physicals, clinic and medicine on site, constant educating on preventative steps that can be taken. It really is a misnomer.
The sexual promiscuity that you mentioned, would the age be factored in? The fact that people in the call center industry are between 20 and 30 most of the time. So is that taken into consideration compared to other sectors, or no?
So when you have that many, young people together, regardless of what industry, young people are young people, right? But
the birds and the bees.
Right. But that's a fact of life. That's not in any way relative to our industry, I would say.
I would agree.
Gentlemen, we are at the end of the show. Thank you very much for providing us with insights into the call center industry and giving us a picture of what can happen in the future. If there's anything I have forgotten to ask you, each of you have a minute right in front of the camera. So if there's anything you want to say I forgot, or we need to wrap this up.
I guess what I'd like to end on the note is, one, the call center industry is a place for any Filipino to develop a career and grow in the management skills and become a global leader. And I think that's where you need to think about the industry. And we have voice and non-voice. Again, when I talk about MBAs, doctors, nurses being part of our culture, this is the industry that we're putting forth, and we're investing in our people at levels no other industry is doing.
Aha, you said call center. There you go. Jeff.
So I would say to the moms and dads and relatives out there that have young people or relatives that are interested in this industry, really get to understand and know what the industry has to offer. As Keith said, the opportunities to invest in young people, to teach them talent, to have their compensation increase, to have global opportunities, I think it's unmatched, and I think we need to get past a lot of the conceptions that are not correct. It's a caring, nurturing industry that has so much to offer the young people of the Philippines. Thank you.
All right. Jeff, I have just one question for you. I've done this with Keith. His favorite place in the Philippines is Dumaguete. There's a beach resort there. What's your favorite place in the Philippines to go to, besides home?
Cebu is probably my favorite place in the whole world. That's where my wife
is.
That's probably in
the
whole world.
Cebuana.
That's where my wife is from, and the culture there is just so laid back and comfortable. I absolutely love it. Although I also love getting out to the remote areas and seeing the beauty.
I think Cebuanas are very frugal hustlers for money. That's a fact. They'll kill me for this.
The most beautiful women in the world come from Cebu. Didn't you know that?
Thank you very much for being on Expat
having us.
Insights,
Our
and it was great to have you here. That was Keith Jones and Jeff Uthoff from the BPO industry, and we'll see you next week. Hope you have a great week ahead of you. Mabuhay and good night. I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan, and this was Expat Insights.